As we all know, 2025 has come with a lot of highs and lows for the UFC this year, man. And with that comes a lot of good fights and a lot of bad fights, a lot of stinkers. And today we're going to be going over all of them, the best and the worst fights the UFC has had in 2025, in my opinion. And we're doing it via a tier list, okay? Starting off with the first one we got here, man. We have a lot of fights to yap about here. Zahabi versus Aldo. I like this one, okay? Don't come at me like it's the Prom Simpsons movie and all y'all got your fucking pitchforks and knives. Because A, do I think Zahabi actually won? Yes. And B, do I think this fight was really good? Yes, man. I think it's deserving of being in the B tier, okay? It was a nice back and forth, and again, I know a lot of people disagree with the decision, but I think Zahabi did just enough in that second round to take that one. I think the fact that he saved himself from the soccer kick from hell, from being finished in the third, and came back with over 3 minutes of ground and pound onto Aldo. Who does that, folks? And the first round was kind of slow, was kind of them building into the fight a bit, but in general, man, very heavy pace in the second and third round. Both guys almost finished each other, and it was kind of that new guard versus old. Well, actually, no, it's kind of that Unk versus that slightly younger Unk, bro, because Zahabi's like fucking almost 40 himself. But in general, having both guys almost finish each other and just have a really nice striking stand and bang battle here for the most part. I really enjoy this one, but nothing crazy to the point to where I think B tier is pretty fair, okay? Moving on up next here, man, I'm going to put Talbott versus Lima up here in the C tier. Listen, it seemed like it was just more of that kind of comeback return for Talbott and showing that he really improved in the wrestling, more so than just like a nice back and forth banger we thought it was going to be. Everybody was saying, they're pushing up their hardcore glasses. They're fucking foaming at the mouth. They're saying that this fight's going to be, it's going to steal the card, folks. Look at how the new generation is on display. But in general, it just wasn't too memorable of a fight. It was solid. It wasn't boring by any means. There were interesting scrambles. It was interesting to see how Talbot dealt with the offensive grappling versus a Barcelos performance. But in general, man, the actual back and forth fight, I don't think it was too standoutish to other performances on the card. It was more so like, okay, Talbot's back. He can wrestle now. And Felipe Lima, this kid still has a bright future, folks. So in general, that kind of seemed like the vibe of it, man. Solid fight, but not anything crazy. I'll put it in the C tier here. Moving on to next to Belal Muhammad versus Garry, man. This one's pretty recent. I like this fight. Back and forth on the feet. Belal Muhammad, he got eye poked to hell and back. I still think that Garry was beating him up no matter what. Eye pokes or no eye pokes, man. And it was a 30-27 or a 29-28 to where, yeah, it was just kind of Garry all the way, but Belal Muhammad was making every round competitive. It was a good pace. It was a good flow. Garry was pretty versatile on the feet, and Belal Muhammad could take a fucking shot, dude, and deliver his own. He's always had underrated boxing, in my opinion, okay? So in general, I like this one. It played out on the feet primarily, but it was a nice way to sell Garry as like that next title contender. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't boring by any means. It was entertaining. I'll put it in the B tier. Just nothing too crazy in the grand scheme. Moving on up next to DDP versus Strickland, the rematch. I'm going to put this one in C, bro. It was just one of these where it was more like a domination fest for DDP and showing off, hey, I'm the real champ, folks, more so than Strickland actually making it kind of that back and forth competitive fight he needed it to be. He's saying before, here's the fucking thing, you guys. I'm just going to go to war for you fucking guys. I'm going to do it for you guys, Canada or Australia. This one was in Australia. All right, they're sending both these motherfuckers to every other country but their home country when they're actually fighting, bro. I get confused with it, okay? But in general, man, Sean Strickland just, when you look at the actual striking numbers, he wasn't too far behind from DDP, but it seemed like he couldn't close the gap throughout any round of the actual fight. Like, DDP almost finished him in the fourth round, and he broke his nose, and that was kind of cool to see Strickland punching it back into place. But other than that, man, like, the first to third round was just DDP carrying away in the judges' scorecards. The fifth round, it seemed like Sean had literally died, and this is the episode of the show where we're watching him come back to fucking life. And in general, man, it just was 50-45 and it was a main event, too, that a lot of people were complaining about even taking place. So, in general, the fight kind of just, it didn't stink it up. It wasn't absolutely boring. It was just domination from DDP, okay? I'm going to put this one in the C tier. The champ looked good, man. Well, the champ at the time looked good, man. Moving on up next to a stinker, though. Let's actually talk about a stinker here, right? I'm going to go with Big Ank versus Pereira 1 on here. Man, I was falling asleep during this fight. It was 25 minutes of... like, literally, and then someone had to slam me out of it, man, just so I could see the judges' scorecards. Like, genuinely, this one was kind of a really highly anticipated fight. We were looking forward to it. Ankalaev got all of his wrestling shut down. That was impressive to see from Pereira. And Ankalaev rocked Pereira and actually hurt him at the end of the second and won via knockout. That would have been a crazy fucking timeline we're living in, right? It was an impressive performance from both, you could say, and Pereira still took 2 rounds off him. It was one of these things where he has very high level, light heavyweight striking, brother, but at the same time, it stunk it up, man. Genuinely, unfortunately, it was just such a slow pace. There weren't really any significant moments besides Big Ank rocking him at the end of the second, but just a very slow pace, just not many memorable moments. And it just seemed like this was the transitioning of the belt right before Pereira just big broed him and took it back a few months later, but the performance itself was just really lackluster. Big Ank versus Pereira 1 was a bit of a stink. I'm going to put it in the D tier. Joining it alongside, man, I'm going to put Sterling versus Ortega in the D tier here. It was just another 25 minutes, or no, was this 15 minutes? No, it was 25 minutes. Okay. It was Aldo who wanted 3 rounds. Ortega wanted 5, and it really didn't bode well for either guy because Jesus Christ, man, I wish we got 3 rounds, and I feel like that would have helped the pace out a bit better. It was that 4th and 5th round where you're kind of just looking at it and you're like, oh man, we got 10 more minutes of this. It was just so slow, man. I'm pretty sure Sterling tore his tricep like halfway through the fight, trying to go for a spinning elbow, okay? Then he ended up hurting himself, so he's just pumping the jab the entire fight and relying on that. And it's still working against Brian Ortega because he was weight drained to fucking death. He could barely even see in front of him, okay? He has like the drunk goggles on. He's seeing like 4 of Sterling right in front of his very eyes, okay? It was a rough performance. Like Ortega didn't have any moments and didn't even start getting after it until like the 5th round, I believe. And it's not even his fault, man. Like I heard he's finally getting to move to 155 soon against a Money Moicano rematch. I like that for him, okay? Because at 145, man, like this guy is just skin and bones and he had no gas in the fight. And Sterling, man, you can't rely on him as like, listen, you can rely on him as very high level. Sterling is one of the very best to ever do it. His grappling is insane, the high level it's at, but man, his striking's underrated too, but if you're going to rely on that for 25 minutes to make the crowd go, whoa, like that's really not the move. That's really not it, okay? So unfortunately, it was impressive from Sterling, but it was more so like, can we get a doctor to check on Ortega? At times, more than anything, unfortunately. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to put this in the D tier. It snuck it up, unfortunately, for what was kind of hyped up co-main and ended up just kind of being a stink on the card. You know what I'm saying? Moving on to next, man, let's have some balance in the world. Let's kind of even things out. Let's put an A tier edition in here, man. I think Kevin Holland versus D-Rod was a fucking badass fight. Really back and forth, man. D-Rod almost hurt him and knocked him out in the second. Kevin Holland had a wild comeback and almost did the exact same thing in the third. And we were questioning from both of these guys within 5 minutes apart, how are they surviving all the shots this other dude has landed on him, okay? So it was a bit of that high-level bar fight, man. Like, really, both guys didn't need too much time to build into it. They were scrapping right away. There's a good argument for Holland that he almost won the fight, but D-Rod did just enough to win, and both these guys almost finished each other. I thought this was the best fight of the night for 318, even though we didn't get the bonus, but I think it should have, man. Both these guys went to war. Proud to put this one in A tier, okay? Moving on next to S. Let's put our first S tier in here, man. I'm going to keep it short and sweet with the S tier. I want to keep it very coveted, but I think that Cannonier versus Rodrigues is an underrated fucking banger that really deserves to be in here. When you look at the whole year for fights, man, it seems like that this one's kind of forgotten as like that February Apex main event, but it's more than that. It's much more than that, my boys, okay? This was a back and forth war where it was like Rodrigues was almost hurting him in round 1, I believe, and almost knocking him out. But Cannonier's a dog, man. He's got that heart of gold like fucking Pony Boy. He's durable as hell, okay? Probably got a little bit of that iron chin rubbing off on his fists when he fought Marvin Vittori's bitch ass, but in general, Cannonier came back in the second and third, showed high-level experience, was rocking Rodrigues, mixing it up in the clinch, and Rodrigues got knocked out immediately at the 4th round, and Cannonier was just showing off the level difference. Just showed why he was that top 8 level for so long, but he was willing to die, man. These guys both almost knocked each other out. They were going heavy, swinging on the feet for all 20 minutes of this fight, or 15, whatever it was, okay? Not to get all technical with it, but in general, man, underrated banger. Love this fight. I think it really does deserve to go in the S tier, and I hope people talk about it as one of the best fights of the year, okay? Moving on up next to Ziam versus Davis. I'll put this in the B tier. I really like the scrambles in this fight, and it was more so of a coming out party for Ziam's wrestling on the offensive end because his takedown defense already improved so much in the prior fight, but then against Davis, man, people were saying this guy was going to have a massive wrestling advantage going into this one. The betting odds were almost pick him, and Ziam is outworking him on the ground, and he was just looking way better on the feet in general, man. So I'm not just trying to say it was all Ziam. Like, Davis had a lot of moments, and Davis made the fight and the scramble specifically exciting and back and forth, but in general, man, I did like this fight. B tier, not too memorable in the grand scheme of things, but it definitely deserves a shout, man. The grappling exchanges were entertaining. No big crazy moments, but a consistently entertaining fight throughout, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? So I enjoy this one. I think it deserves to be put in the B tier. Joining it in the B tier as well, let's do Wellmaker versus Ethan Ewing, man. I was pretty upset watching this at the time because I was like, dude, this guy's watching Hunter x Hunter. This guy has a sick as fuck backstory. This guy's getting crazy check right hook knockouts. I loved everything about Wellmaker. I'm not just falling off the hype train. So I was just upset to see him lose so efficiently, but I'm still a fan, man. And in general, like, Ethan Ewing is badass, bro. This guy in his own right. What was the question? This guy stepped up on 48 hours notice, man. This kid is badass. I'm prime Dana White talking about this guy. Truly, my hair is already balding. I should shave it off for Ethan fucking Ewing, bro. This guy came out of nowhere, man, and his striking is good. His volume and output is good. The pace and pressure he was applying to Wellmaker, man, he was lighting him up, man. This guy's got slick and powerful combinations, and the actual fight itself was a nice back and forth. So even though I was upset about all my parlays fucking tanking because Wellmaker lost, even though I was upset Wellmaker lost because I'm a big fan of him, I still think that the actual fight itself was pretty damn good. Probably like the best back and forth fight of the card for 322, and one of the best fights we've had kind of the late fall, you know what I mean? So I think this one deserves to be put in the B tier. Pure striking match. Both guys were lighting each other up at times, but it seemed like Ewing was just kind of one step ahead throughout, okay? Moving on to the next one here, man. A tier. A tier. Who's that reek of to y'all, right? To me, it reeks of Yuri Prochazka. Stinks of Yuri Prochazka, bro. You gotta put all these Yuri fights up in the upper echelon, man, okay? Consistent entertainment, but it's the Rountree fight for me, man. This third round was one of the best rounds I've ever seen in my fucking life. And the first two rounds weren't anything too crazy. Honestly, it wasn't bad to watch by any means, but it seemed like we were all just like, we're chomping at the fucking nails, like waiting for that one big action or shot to happen, and it just seemed like it never was for the first two rounds. Rountree, such a good Muay Thai striker, man. He was piecing him the fuck up for the first two rounds. Prochazka just couldn't really get into it, okay? Couldn't access that fucking avatar state, the flow state, ultra instinct state. He just couldn't get it going, okay? And then in the third round, he knows he's down. He needs to pull it out the fucking fire, and that he does, man. An insane comeback. He's throwing everything he has, and it's almost like he was the only one in the arena that knew, like, I'm going to knock this guy out, and how I say, take him to my village to celebrate. Like, only Yuri Prochazka would be that confident he could just march you down. Nobody has that pace and pressure like Yuri when he wants to just flip it on, man. And I think this deserves to be in the A tier, okay? If the first two rounds were as good as the third, obviously this would be an S, but I still think it deserves a great shout. It was one of the best comebacks of the year, one of the best knockouts of the year. He flatlined Khalil, and all due respect to Khalil, man, he has these ways of getting up on Pereira, getting up on Prochazka, but then he just tanks it. He just tanks it and fucking loses. You know what I'm saying? So, great performance for what it was. I'm going to put this in the A tier. It was a good look for both guys, but Yuri is just built fucking different, my boy, okay? Moving on to the next one we got here. Let's talk about Khalil Rountree, but I guess in a negative way here. I'm going to put Rountree versus Hill in the C tier. I thought we were going to see full violence on display with this one, but we got a full 25 minutes of stinkers for this instead, man. It was Khalil Rountree chomping up the calf, and he knocked down Jamal Hill once with a nice right hand, I believe it was. I could be tripping. What the fuck? He got 1 or 2 knockdowns in this fight, man. It's just a blur to me. I wish I wasn't sober watching this one because I was so excited for it. The whole crowd as a whole, besides like one other fight, was a bit of a stinker. So I was really excited for this one. And in general, it just kind of let me down. Like, for it being so long of a fight, I just feel like nothing substantial really happened. Like, Rountree did rock him 1 or 2 times, don't get me wrong, and Jamal Hill was just so flat-footed, though. No head movement, no footwork, not really much volume on the feet to where Rountree was just piecing him up like a fucking punching bag and just carrying away these rounds. Wasn't really hunting for a finish too much. Like, he was very patient and composed and was letting the finish come to him, man. And I totally understand that. I think that's a valid way to look at it, and the guy ended up winning. But as a whole, for entertainment-wise, this fight kind of let us down. So I'm going to put this one in the C tier, okay? C tier, not bad or not, like, gun to my head level of watching, but just a bit disappointing for what I thought it was going to be, and not too much action as a whole. You know what I'm saying? Moving on up next, man, let's fill up this D tier a little bit. Emmett versus Murphy was kind of a bit of a crime, no? I know that some people are kind of like hyping it up, but in my opinion, it was a stinker, okay? It wasn't bad enough to go in F. I'm not screaming, give me my 80 doubloons back, because we didn't pay that shit. This was that free-ass fight night, right? And in general, man, it just felt like 25 minutes of, yeah, Emmett got some nice takedowns in, and whoa, that was like the fucking shocking moment of the fight, the real highlight reel, but Murphy was piecing him up on the feet, and Murphy got up to his feet pretty damn efficiently to where it was just a shutout and a shutdown from the the new generation taking over, and that seemed like all this was, man. You kind of just felt bad for Josh Emmett after. Not too memorable of a fight, and it was just a bit of a stinker as a whole. Another one I'm going to put in D tier, man. I'm going to put Shara versus MVP on here. And that might seem shocking at first, but I think you might just be healing, my boys, because it's been a few months. But genuinely, Shara versus MVP from February was supposed to be this pure striker versus pure striker, some of the best in the UFC, okay? These guys are so slick with their combinations, their timing, their shot selection, how hard they make it for their opponents to hit him, and yet they deliver so much back. We thought this was going to be a fucking barn burner on the feet with just a lot of volume and a possible knockout, but instead what we got is Shara could not figure out the range and close the distance for pretty much the entire fight, man. And MVP was so elusive and so fluid and was just piecing him the fuck up. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't all bad, but it was just such a letdown, man, to what we thought it was going to be. Like, not too many shots thrown, man, not too many big moments. No guy really hurt each other, and I just don't think it was the striking spectacle we thought it was going to be, unfortunately. So it was rough, man. I'm going to put this one in the D tier here. It kind of breaks my heart a little talking about it. Moving on up next to Garry versus Prates. I'll put this in the C tier. It was a very impressive performance from Ian Garry. Shut your mouth. I deserve the fucking A tier. He's fucking this voice cracking to walk down to the cage. He'll smack me up right now talking about him. But in general, man, Ian Garry, it was a great win from him. And he went on to show in 2025 that he's fucking back. And he is underrated in a way, man. Like, this guy, I think, deserves the title shot next. And this was one of the performances that kind of helped seal that. Like, doing that to Carlos Prates for fucking, 21 out of 25 minutes. Ian Garry was getting the better of him in the pocket, getting the better of him on the feet in general. And Prates didn't have too many moments until like the last 3 or 4 minutes of the fight, which is why I'm going to put this in the C tier. Prates just wasn't really throwing too much at all. Really, if anything, was just trying to seem like make it to the 4th and 5th round because the possible cardio concerns, because first 5 rounder in the UFC, he's knocking everyone out in a minute, and he's smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. So I can understand wanting to just last until the later rounds, but it was just kind of a kind of fight. It was more so of a impressive performance for Ian Garry. Like, wow, like, how'd he do that to Prates? Or, wow, like, Ian Garry's such a good striker, man. He's so fluid on the feet, man. He's so quick. His timing is there. But in terms of entertainment, I don't think it was, like, the back and forth that we really wanted. It was kind of Ian Garry just shutting him down, and then Prates almost knocking him out at the end, you know what I mean? So I'll put this one in the C tier here, all right? Moving on up next to some big boys, man. Let's do Pavlovich versus Cortes Acosta. I like this one. I thought it was solid. The first round, I believe, was a whole lot of nothing, but the fight got into it, man, as it got to that second and third round, man. The third round especially, like, Cortes Acosta has a durable as fuck chin, man, and he was getting in the pocket with Pavlovich and taking all of his best shots, man. So Pavlovich started getting after it in the second and third round. We actually saw a bit of back and forths, and I think Cortes Acosta, man, we saw it in the Spivak fight as well. Like, this guy has a way of bringing out the dog of other people, just making him stand and bang, man, whether he's pointing to the fucking ground or whether he's just doing the hands up thing, whatever the fuck, or actually knocking his opponents out, man. Like, Cortes Acosta is bringing it on the feet every time, man, okay? So I'm going to put this one in the B tier. It was a pretty solid fight and showed off, thankfully, I'll get to this in a second, but it thankfully showed that the heavyweights can put on a bit of a solid fight. It doesn't have to be an either 60-second knockout, and if it goes the distance, it just sucks to watch, okay? It doesn't have to be that all the time. So thankfully, this fight showed that it was a nice back and forth, that both guys had their moments. Moving on to the opposite of that, Jesus, man, I'm going to put in the F tier here, Pavlovich versus Rozenstruik. I hated this fight, man. It was 15 minutes of just nothing for the heavyweights. Ba-dum. You can just feel their blobbiness shaking up the ground. Whether you're in China or whether you're on the other side of the world, man, it doesn't matter. You felt this one, okay? And everybody who watched it, it just seemed like a bit of a waste, man. Like, Pavlovich was so hesitant to do anything and follow up with all the right shots, and Rozenstruik just had nothing for him, to the point to where it was a blobby decision, man. I think this one deserves to be in the F tier here, unfortunately, okay? Moving on up next to, let's do Merab versus Sandhagen, okay? Hey, guys, please put me in A tier. I am so entertaining for you guys. This one specifically from Merab, it wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad at all, man. I'm going to put it in the C tier because, you know, almost knocking out Sandhagen in the second is pretty fucking crazy. But I feel like from rounds 3 through 5, man, it just wasn't a lot, except Merab trying to take him down. The crowd goes, oompa, and then all of a sudden Sandhagen's just back up to his feet. They're pushed against the fence. Now they're in the clinch. Hey, they're back to their feet. Whoa, and then it lasts for like 10 seconds, and Merab's doing it all over again, okay? It's literally just a sequence that Sandhagen was just doomed to, man, okay? And in the first round was a nice back and forth, but again, the second half of the fight just wasn't anything crazy besides Merab just kind of dominating. You take that how you will. But in general, man, you know, the fight wasn't all bad. It wasn't boring. It did have moments, especially in the first half. So I think it's fair to both guys here, man, to put it in the C tier. It wasn't a boring performance, but just was kind of just a Merab defense. Not as exciting as the two prior, you know what I mean? Speaking of which, let's do Merab real quick and put him in the A tier here for Merab versus Umar, okay? Merab kind of really is all over the spectrum in 2025, man. Well, in many ways, all right, but this specifically, bro, dude, I really like this fight. I think it holds up still now towards the end of the year as one of the best. We've been saying it since January when it went down, but really, like, this fight has held up as one of the best of the year. It had everything, too. You had the wrestling for both guys, okay? You had the entertaining scrambles. You had the back and forth on the feet. Merab, for really what seemed like the first time, was not just afraid to get scrappy and get in the pocket, as he went on to do later with Sandhagen and O'Malley and Jan in the rematch. Like, this is the fight where Merab really started to get more confident in his striking, man. Okay, he's landing those overhands against Umar. This fight as a whole just had everything. It had every aspect on the feet and on the ground that you could want, and both guys kind of did hurt each other at times, and the fact that you got to see all 25 minutes of it, he had Merab with the crazy comeback, you know, lost the first two, third round was really close, and then he won the last two, so this fight really did have everything, down to even the scorecards, man. So in general, banger of a fight, great pace, and one of the best bantamweight title fights of all time. I think it's worthy of being put in the A tier, okay? Moving on up next to, let's do Klein versus Rebecki here. I believe this one happened pretty recently as well. I want to say 321. It definitely was, because that was when Klein was fucking sitting on the stool and getting his hand raised, man. I feel for me. Broke his ankle and Rebecki fumbled the win, but in general, man, this was a scrap. Both guys were really busted up after, and it seemed like Rebecki just has this fucking bulldog mentality, and he's marching forward, but Klein is such a sniper, and he's so precise. He plays it safe. He can play it safe on the back foot at times and still away rounds, but for this fight specifically, man, he was getting fucking scrappy. He was getting the hell after it, okay? This was a dog fight. Again, both guys were really hurt, okay? Both guys landed nice to the body, chopping up the legs, and then landing clean to the head, to the point to where you're worrying if you're going to see a finish or not in this fight, man, okay? And either way, the pace was so good. Rebecki, if he just let Klein up in that third round, could have won, because the ref didn't know that he had a broken ankle, Klein did. But in general, man, still a nice back and forth, entertaining to watch. Both guys had great moments. I'm going to put Rebecki and Klein in the B tier. Moving on up next, I'm going to put Brown versus Dalby. Randy Brown versus Nicholas Dalby in the A tier, okay? It's a hardcore's dream. I wanted to see more out of this fight. Like, there's an argument, if you even got to see like 10 more minutes of this, 20 more minutes of this, that it would deserve an S. But I believe this was only like a round and a half fight. So it just got kind of the rug pulled out from underneath us. It was a banger while it lasted, though, man. The unk of all unks, Dalby, bro, taking the first round away a bit from Brown, almost rocking him and hurting him, but kind of fumbled that finish. And Brown has one of the best knockouts of the year in the second round. So genuinely, both guys almost knocking each other the hell out, okay? And then Dalby showing, even at that older age, that he could still hold it down. Crazy performance, but it just wasn't too long, okay? It just didn't last a bit long enough. It was that 7 minutes of heaven, but in general, not the 10 minutes we needed to get up to S. Pause, I guess. I don't fucking know. Moving on up next to, dude, the comeback of all time, bro. Not just in the fight itself, okay, but just the literal comeback, because this guy was getting sent to the shadow realm, getting sent to hell, and most importantly, getting sent to China. Zhang Min Yang versus Johnny Walker, bro. Johnny Walker was supposed to be executed in this fight. And the fact that he immediately shoots for a takedown, is able to survive the first half of the round, even get the better of Zhang in the strike in, and then makes it to the second, shows a higher level of UFC experience, and then knocks out Zhang with a hefty combination, bro. It was crazy to see, man. Zhang, this win was yours, bro. On a silver platter, he still let it down. But in general, it goes to show that Walker, despite being a chinny chin chin for the UFC, man, he was able to survive, dude, okay? He showed an experience gap. He was able to mix in the wrestling. His chin was able to survive, because Zhang did land some nasty shots at times, okay? And in general, I'm going to put this one on the B tier, because, yeah, it wasn't too long of a fight, and it was more so just getting caught up in the excitement of the moment, because Walker's actually back with a win, and Walker was able to survive, and Walker outdogged him. It was crazy, okay? And the ref was letting Zhang go. Zhang was taking so many shots, and he's like, hey, hold on, I got money on this, dude. I got to let him go, but it wasn't enough, unfortunately. So besides getting caught up in the Johnny Walker comeback hype or not, man, all right, whatever, I genuinely, I mean, both the Walker brothers tearing it up in 2025. That's a crazy plot twist, but in general, I think this deserves to be in the B tier. Got a lot of emotions out of us. It was a big upset. Zhang was hurting Walker, but Walker ended up hurting him with a crazy combination at the end. So I think the B tier is pretty fair here, man, okay? Moving on to another B tier here, Vettori versus Allen. This fight kind of had everything as well, man. I almost put this one in the A tier. Don't think it deserved that fight of the night bonus, but it did have everything, man. You got to see the interesting scrambles in the first half where Allen is actually getting his takedowns going, but then Vettori ended up on top and he's doing fucking ground and pound for like a minute of the fight. I didn't expect that. And then the second round, man, Allen's striking and he's just piecing him up in the pocket. And Allen just showing how slow and simplistic Vettori can be, kind of just relying on that 1-2, man. He's walking like a fucking Telltale The Walking Dead zombie, bro. And in general, by the time it got to the third round, Vettori was willing to die, but it just wasn't enough for Allen, man. Allen was looking just better than him in the grappling, better than him in the striking, landed nice to the body, clean to the head, and did just enough to, yeah, he was another guy that couldn't finish Vettori, but this fight had everything, man. Like, Allen was piecing him up on the feet, Allen was taking him down, and Vettori was resilient enough and hated Allen enough, because they did have beef, to make it just a competitive fight throughout. So, almost put this one in the A tier, to be honest, but I think B is pretty fair, okay? Another one I'm going to be adding to the B tier here is Paddy the fucking Body Lud. I'm going to put him against Chandler. Crazy enough, the only fight of Paddy in 2025, and here we are now, him getting a fucking title shot. Paddy versus Chandler, this is the win that got him to the dance, man, okay? And honestly, I've ranked this fight before when I put it in the C tier, but I rewatched it the other day in honor of Paddy getting this title fight. I'll put it in B. I think it goes from C to B, man. Chandler had more moments than I thought he did in the first and second round, but Paddy's grappling, man, he just took over. Even though Chandler got a takedown in at first and Chandler was having some nice shots at first, he just gasses out, man. And patient Chandler is not the move. But this fight was just a bit more back and forth than I thought it was. I thought when I watched it live, it was just Paddy dominating. But in general, old man Chandler, man, this guy's still kicking from McGregor, and he still had something for Paddy, which is crazy. But ultimately, he looked dog shit. Paddy took over. Paddy got the better of him in the wrestling. Crazy ground and pound that busted him the fuck up. And it was a real good performance from Paddy Pimble, man. And in general, rough look for Chandler, but we still got a good fight out of it. So I'm going to put this one in the B tier. Not as crazy as the usual Chandler performances. And for Paddy, you know, I feel like Paddy's consistently entertaining. This is fight kind of what you fucking get. Looks good in the grappling. Underrated striking. People say it after every one of his fights, but in general, I think this one deserves to be in the B tier here, okay? Moving on up next to Figueiredo versus Jackson that went down at the Rio card. I'm putting in the C tier, man. Just a whole lot of nothing. Like, couldn't even really remember. This fight literally happened 2 months ago, and I can barely tell you anything that happened from it, okay? Jackson just... I feel like this guy thought he was winning, even though he was, like, down 2, man. And he just wasn't throwing enough on the feet to steal away these rounds. Even if he just threw, like, 5 or 10 more strikes. Just something, you know, significant enough like that, but also not too big. Like, that was all he needed to steal these rounds. And it goes to show how A, razor close and competitive the fight was, but also B, how kind of just slow and way too competitive it was. You know what I mean? Like, 20 and 20 is a lot closer than, like, 80 and 50. Does that even make any sense? That doesn't even make any sense. I'm never going to try and involve math on y'all again. Jesus Christ, bro. But in general, this fight just had a lot of nothing, dude. I'm going to put it in the C tier, okay? Not too memorable, but also not bad at the same time. You know what I mean? Figgy kind of got the wrestling going here and there, and Jackson did kind of hurt him here and there, but just a lot of nothing from both guys here. Just enough for Figueiredo to win via split or something. You know what I'm saying? So I'll put it in the C tier. Moving on up next to Yair versus Pitbull, man. Mr. Worldwide himself. Yair Rodrigues and Pitbull, this is a fight that a lot of people like and enjoy and would put in the A, maybe not A, but B and C tier, but I'm going to put in the D tier. I don't understand how more of y'all weren't bored watching this just like I was, bro. Like, Pitbull just was not throwing anything in this fight, man. Like, it just seemed like he was happy to be there or caught up in the moment or that old age was really showing, but Pitbull just seemed static and could not get into a flow, while Yair, who's already so dynamic, who already had a speed advantage over him, whose kickboxing is already so good, was just piecing him up for 3 rounds. Didn't finish him, and I think we needed a finish to kind of get the blood fucking flowing for this fight specifically, but in general, in my opinion, y'all, I'm sorry, because there are people that like this fight, but it was 15 minutes of just nothing for me, in my opinion. Yair looked good, so it was a good showing off for him, and Pitbull, just a disappointing debut, but at least he got a takedown in, folks. There just wasn't much here from Pitbull, and I think that kind of hurts the fight as a whole in terms of entertainment. I'm going to put this one in the D tier, okay? It might be a hot take, but I'm going to stay my base on it, all right? Moving on up next, another one in the D tier here, man. I'm going to put Usman versus Buckley. Really impressive performance from Usman. I want to make that clear. I don't think he should get the next title shot, but this was a really great comeback win for Usman. It was a feel-good moment, like, oh, Usman's back in the win column. You know, all of the guys that were in the top 10 around his time period, man, they're like 0-17 in their last 17 fights, and Usman finally broke that. Usman finally got a win. I was really happy for him, even though I like Buckley and picked Buckley, but in terms of entertainment, bro, in terms of enjoyment watching the fight, until the 5th round, maybe until the 4th round, this was Usman doing a really good job at getting a takedown in and then just controlling him without trying to sub, without trying to ground and pound. It was just him on top, controlling him. And Buckley just could not defend these takedowns for the life of him. Couldn't get back up to his feet for the life of him. And then in the 5th round, whoa, it's like a fucking light bulb just appeared in front of his fucking eyes. And then he just knew what was going on and knew how to stuff the takedowns and then was getting the better of Usman on the feet. But listen, man, for as good of a win as this was for Usman in terms of entertainment, man, he just did what he had to do to win. He played it safe, was racking up a lot of that efficient control time that he needed, and gave no room for Buckley to show off on the feet and just be that more explosive younger guy. And in general, man, listen, I'm happy for Usman, but in terms of entertainment, I think this one, unfortunately, I'm going to put in the D tier here, okay? Impressive win, but he stunk it up for those first 20 minutes, bro, okay? Moving on up next to Bryce Mitchell, bro. We're taking on Gene Silva. I'm going to put this one in the B tier. 314 had a lot of bangers, bro, and I know bangers. But in general, this is one that it was only a round and a half, but crazy high pace from the start. You got Silva fucking barking at him at the presser, and Mitchell saying, you just barked up the wrong tree, motherfucker. Like, there was beef going into this one, okay? And then this was when Bryce Mitchell was going through peak controversy as well, so there was a lot of eyes on this fight, man, okay? But Gene Silva was able to out-grapple him. I believe was able to submit him as well, which is just something I didn't expect. And Mitchell was looking solid on the feet as well, but Silva was just too big, too strong for him. But Mitchell was not going down without a fight, man, okay? That tree was planted to the ground, all right? Even though he ended up getting choked out, Mitchell's still a good win, and Mitchell still made it competitive for him, okay? So, in my opinion, this was a nice back and forth. Love seeing the beef on display. I'm going to put this one in the B tier, all right? Moving on up next, we're going to go back up to the A tier here, man. Cody Steele versus Rountree. This was on the early prelims, dog, of UFC 312. This is one of those hidden gems, one of those stars in the sky where everything else is light pollution. Jesus. What a shit card, but this fight was one of the better ones on it. The best one on it, man. One of the best fights of the year, man. These guys standing and banging, pointing to the ground. It was just all blood, all violence, all striking. Both guys hurting each other. Rountree showing that just, you know, that UFC level experience. He's been around the game for a while, man. And Cody Steele just got to the dance, and Rountree was showing those levels, man. Steele was the big old USA wrestler, and even he wasn't shooting any takedowns. He chose to stand and bang. And in general, man, it gave for a great fight, and this fight, in my opinion, deserves to be on the A tier, man. One of those reminders why you got to watch the prelims, dude. You know what I'm saying? Fights like this are the reason and the reminder, all right? Moving on up next here, man, to another one I really think deserves to be up here, upper echelon. I think it deserves to be in the S tier. It's Joshua Van versus Royval. Royval can hang with the best of them, bro, and this was Joshua Van's true coming out performance. Like, before, it was like, Joshua Van's my favorite flyweight. Let's get this guy to a title shot. Dude, and then all of a sudden, very quick turnaround against Royval. He beats him, and now the world knows Joshua Van, and I love to see it. In general, dude, this was 15 minutes. 15 minutes of just both guys standing and banging, getting in the pocket. Joshua Van with his, as usual, beautiful boxing combinations, and Royval choosing not to mix it up with the wrestling and just stand and bang, but bro, it was so peak to watch, man. It got you really excited for the winner of this versus the title opportunity. And in general, it was just 15 minutes, and these guys are landing 200 strikes apiece. Landing, guys, for 15 fucking minutes. So it was crazy, man. They didn't even need championship rounds to set, like, a bunch of records for, like, the amount of significant strikes landed for a flyweight fight, man. So in general, both guys, just a striker versus striker dogfight, man. Van hurting him at the end of the 3rd round and sealing the deal, too, was absolute cinema. And this was just a striking battle between two young and hungry fucking guys who are willing to die in that cage, bro. I'm putting this one in the S tier for sure, okay? Van versus Royval deserves it. Moving on up next, man, to the B tier, I'm going to put Gaethje versus Fiziev, the rematch. This is a fight where it felt very kind of similar to the first, but also, like, different in a solid amount of ways to make it a different fight as a whole. But it was interesting seeing Fiziev actually get a couple takedowns going and Gaethje just shutting down the fort once again and holding down his spot in the top 5. But I'm putting this in the B tier because a lot of people could put this in S or A. And in my opinion, it deserves B because it's a good fight. There was excitement, nice back and forth, but it just felt like we just didn't really need this rematch. Like, we got this fight. Gaethje won again, another 29-28. And Fiziev honestly looked a bit better this time around, but still the same exact result to where... And especially the fact that we missed out on Gaethje versus Hooker because of it. Like, it just was kind of like, all right, it is what it is. We got this kind of timeline. You know what I mean? So it was a good fight. It was entertaining. Both guys had great moments. And Gaethje with a great win, but unfortunately just kind of felt like a pointless rematch, and we could see how people complain about the Justin Gaethje title shot, which is valid, that this win really didn't go to help him out at all. You know what I mean? So in general, good fight, but just nothing too memorable. So I'm going to put this one in the B tier, all right? Another one joining it in the B tier, I'm going to put Crute versus Bellotto. Went down in February, man. Crute 10-8'd him in the first round, thought he was going to get some kind of finish, and the Crute title run was really starting up, baby. Yeah, before he was losing a prime Anthony Smith. Baldy versus Mullet here, man. Jesus. But it's like the Theo Von before and after, bro. Except we haven't seen the after yet. But Rodolfo Bellotto took over in the second and third round, man. Was able to make it competitive to make this fight a draw. But it was a draw, I agree with, man. Bellotto won the second and third, but Crute 10-8'd him in the first. So I agree with the decision, to be honest with you. Sucks to see a draw because it was such a high-paced war, but it is what it is. I think this one deserves to be in the B tier. Didn't expect it to be such a banger, but it truly was, man. Truly, it was one of those fights where they open up the main card with it, and you're like, what the how should this be legal, bro? But ended up paying off, you know what I mean? Moving on up next to Chimaev versus DDP. I already know this one's going to get shit, bro. A lot of people like this fight, believe it or not. There's a lot of people that thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm just gonna disagree. I did not, man. Maybe I'm biased too. I was at the bar with my buddies. A lot of them were people trying to watch for the first time, and they really enjoyed the card before that. And then this just stunk it up, and I'm like, all right, man. This is the one I showed him. Are you fucking serious? It was one of those fights, you know what I'm saying? And listen, Chimaev, it says a lot to where he threw and landed hundreds of strikes when he was attempting this ground and pound, but only like 30 or 40 counted as significant. That goes to show that this fight was just a lot of Chimaev picking him up, putting him down, and until the fifth round, it was just these overhand shots that weren't really damaging DDP. I mean, they were busting up his face a little bit, but it was really just cementing the win for Chimaev, and just so he wasn't laying on him, he was just doing something. So don't get me wrong, I've seen worse stinkers. I've seen Torres Finney. I've seen guys who truly just get a takedown and just hug, and they don't do anything with it. And I think that's very frustrating to watch as a fan, but in general, at least Chimaev was throwing something a little bit, but it was really disappointing, especially as someone who picked DDP, for him to just not have anything until the fifth round. It's crazy. He ended up being the first motherfucker that took down Chimaev, man. But Chimaev, I feel like he could have been a superstar if he went out there and finished DDP or really efficiently was working on him. But unfortunately, it was just a boring decision where Chimaev did become the champion. Welcome to Doomsday. But other than that, man, it was a bit lackluster, even though it was so dominant and impressive. Above all, man, don't get me wrong, it was dominant. It was very impressive. Truly, who the fuck does that to DDP? But in terms of paying $80 for it, in terms for entertainment value, in terms for getting excited in a back-and-forth war, we just didn't really get those, okay? So I'm going to put this one in the D tier here. Moving on to another one at what seems like rock bottom here, okay? Literally the end of Bikini Bottom. Welcome to rock bottom, motherfuckers, where they're all wearing the glove hats and they go, please tell me you know what I'm talking about. Somebody knows, bro, but in general, I'm going to put Volkov versus Almeida on here, bro. This was someone where, okay, look at the grappler in Almeida. He was taking him down, but we weren't even lucky enough to get any of that ground and pound that Chimaev did. That seemed like a blessing compared to this. Listen, Volkov won on damage, and you could say what you want about it, even as someone who was rooting for Volkov, and I still, it was an interesting decision. I'm not even going to get into that, bro. Make of it what you will and what you guys thought, but Almeida lost the fucking fight, and he just stunk it up, though. He stunk it up, man. It was part of the reason why I couldn't even be that upset or mad about Volkov just winning, because, like, Almeida just fucking stunk it up for, like, 12 out of the 15 minutes of the fight, man. He was taking him down, but he wasn't even throwing anything. Wasn't even attempting really any submissions. So this was just an example of a wrestler who, yeah, it's very impressive if he can pick someone up and put him down like that and control him. But when you're not attempting any submissions, when you're not advancing positions at all, when you're just coasting it out, when you're not actually even throwing ground and pound, it made for a pretty shit fight, in my opinion. Like, the only substantial thing here was Volkov, like, elbowing him or just landing some kind of shots at the end of the first round, and he ended up taking that one. Maybe it was the second. I don't even fucking remember, and I don't want to. I'm putting this one in the F tier, unfortunately, okay? Moving on up next here to Roman Kopylov versus Gregory Rodrigues. This is one I thought was going to be a banger. Striker versus striker. Rodrigues is a fucking knockout artist, and Kopylov is so dynamic in his kickboxing. But really, man, I'm going to put this in the C tier. It was solid. It wasn't boring, but for how much a lot of people were hyped up for it, I thought this was going to play out a bit better, and I understand why both guys were a bit hesitant because they do have the power to knock each other out. Kopylov has such explosive kicks, and Rodrigues' pure devastating power is fucking wild. So I understand it. It wasn't as bad as like a fucking Francis Ngannou and Derek Lewis, and they're afraid of the power, but I just feel like Kopylov wasn't throwing too much in that second and third, or I'm sorry, the first and the second round, and waited until the third to really start getting going, and that's when Rodrigues started to really slow down, whereas he was taking over the first 2 rounds. But I mean, it was a nice back and forth, but I just thought it was going to be a bit more of that war, or a bit closer to a finish. I didn't need a finish. I would have been fine with just 15 minutes of standing and banging like we got, but it was more just standing at bay and banging. You know what I'm saying? It was a solid fight, nice exchanges on the feet at times, but just nothing too crazy or memorable. You know what I'm saying? Moving on to the next one we got, man. Holloway versus Poirier 3, the trilogy. I'm going to put this in the B tier. I'd put it as like a strong B, a little B plus if I could. I'd even add like a fucking gold sticker on top, okay, like I'm a prime 5th grade teacher. But for this one, man, I don't think it was the fight that everybody was saying it was. Like, everybody was saying it was either it deserved to be an S or A, and then they saw the fight and it wasn't as good, or they saw the fight and they believed it was that good. But either way, I just think that on paper, this was just going to be a barn burner, or one of the best fights you've ever seen in your lifetime. You know, and then what it ended up being was just, all right, that was a pretty damn good fight. But nothing too crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was a nice back and forth. Dustin Poirier got a knockdown in. Wild to see. He almost knocked out Holloway. That would have been wild in his hometown crowd. Holloway knocked down Poirier. His developing power 155 continues to show up. And the striking numbers were so high. So don't, and then we even got the moment, Holloway pointing at the middle of the cage, or I'm sorry, pointing at the ground, and then Poirier unfortunately had to clinch up because he was getting hurt. That was a tough ending. But other than that, man, it was a war. It was a high-paced fight. It was striker versus striker who both had good moments. So I can understand putting this higher, and I think that's very valid. But in my personal opinion, I just think that I enjoyed Vettori versus Allen more in that card. I enjoyed Holland versus D-Rod more in that card. All 3 were great fights, but I feel like Holloway versus Poirier 3 might have been the most high level. It was still a good fight. B tier is good, but I just think those other 2 fights were better than that. You know what I mean? And this was a fight to where it is memorable. Sean Brett, like a diamond's going to be playing in everybody's head when they think about it. But I was just I don't know. I was just maybe expecting more. Maybe that's on me. I don't fucking know. But in general, good fight. But I'm going to keep it in the B tier here, okay? Moving on up next to just something short and sweet, man. Iwo Baranowski versus Ibo Islam. 90 seconds of just the best bar-slugging MMA you'll ever fucking see, man, okay? There were like 5 knockdowns in 90 seconds, bro. Like, Baranowski hurts him when they meet in the middle. And then Islam almost knocks him out of there. Baranowski almost knocks him out. Islam almost knocks him out. Listen, I'm very tempted to put this in like the B tier because it was only 90 seconds. But for just the pure excitement of it and it being like the best round I've ever fucking seen, like, this is something you want to show your casuals, your parents, anyone you know in your life proudly. You know what I'm saying? Baranowski and Islam, 90 seconds. I wish we got to see more of it, but they both almost knocked each other the fuck out. They both had great moments over each other, man. So this was a bar fight. This was a fucking high-level bar fight, man. They were slugging, and I think it deserves to be in the A tier despite how short it was, okay? Moving on up next to another one I'm going to put in the A tier here, man. Bilal Muhammad versus JDM. I think it's pretty deserving, man. Bilal Muhammad was pretty unsuccessful with the takedowns until, I believe, like the 3rd, 4th, 5th round, maybe even just the 4th and 5th. But JDM striking, his boxing specifically, bro, is just something beautiful to watch, man. He was beating up Bilal Muhammad with crazy combinations, bro. Landing so heavy to the body, busted up Bilal Muhammad's lip like the Alistair Overeem broken lip as well. It was crazy, man. Bilal Muhammad refused to go down. It was the dog that wouldn't fucking die, man. And he's marching forward. And listen, man, he ultimately only won like 1 or 2 rounds, but every round was still competitive. Bilal was still meeting him in the middle, still getting in the pocket, still making it close in the striking for rounds 1 through 5. You know what I'm saying? Despite him losing most of those rounds, respect to Bilal for still making it an entertaining striking dogfight. And even when he mixed in the wrestling, yeah, he was unsuccessful, but that goes to show how much JDM's takedown defense and defensive grappling has improved. Just how good is Islam Makhachev, folks? Really? Because Jesus, man, JDM was shutting down the wrestling of Bilal. And overall, this fight was just stellar on the feet and so high level, man. Truly just one of those 5-round championship bangers that we got here. I think it deserves to be in the A tier, okay? Moving on to next to the fucking opposite, all right? We're going to New York, baby, okay? We're going to run into Jay-Z himself. Even he was probably upset watching this one, bro. Makhachev versus JDM. Makhachev versus JDM, I'm going to put in the D tier here, all right? I know that there's a lot of, I just said this about the Chimaev versus DDP. A lot of people defend it. A lot of people enjoyed watching it. And listen, that's fair, man. We all watch the sport for whatever you want to get out of it. You know what I'm saying? But this one was just, it was a bit worse. Like, yeah, Makhachev was trying to advance position, so at least he was attempting a couple submission attempts, but as a whole, there just wasn't really much going on here. It was very impressive for Makhachev because genuinely, for how good JDM's takedown defense and defensive grappling, how we got out of these scrambles with Bilal had improved so efficiently, for Makhachev to just shut him down in his 170 debut is nothing short of insanely impressive to do. So don't get me wrong. In terms of the pure wrestling, control, squeeze, skill set as a whole, move to 170, the pure creatine strength, brother, Islam had it all. But in terms of the entertainment, in terms of getting close to a finish, in terms of exciting the fans, I think this is a D tier, okay? Very impressive, but just was very similar to that Chimaev versus DDP performance, you know what I mean? Apparently, anybody who just goes by three-letter nicknames is just fuck going against these grapplers, bro, Jesus. Moving on, I'm next to another one I'm going to put in the D tier here, man. Ige versus Pitbull. I'm sorry to do this to fucking Pitbull here, bro. I'm not trying to put him back-to-back stinkers, but this is another one where Pitbull literally almost hurt him in the second round. It was almost taking him out of there. And the crowd, I'm pretty sure, didn't even notice. They were just stagnant. You know what I'm saying? This fight just really didn't have anything. The first and the third rounds just weren't memorable. A little back and forth, but just a whole lot of nothing going on the feet, man. Just a striking battle with a lot of nothing. The tumbleweeds are busting around in the cage, bro, right? And even though Pitbull almost hurt him and took him out of there at the second, the crowd couldn't get anything going. Me, even watching from my TV, I couldn't get anything. Like, it was like the most lackluster, exciting moment you'll ever see. And that was the highlight of the fight. So it goes to show, man. It's tough for Pitbull. I feel bad for him, man. And for Dan Ige coming off another loss. His gatekeeper just couldn't keep the gate shut for this one, all right? I'm going to put this in the D tier. It's another one that might be a hot take. There's probably going to be a lot of people that enjoyed this one, but it was just dull in my opinion. Very just static and slow pace where not a lot happened. You know what I'm saying? Moving on to the next one here, man. I was here live. I really enjoyed this one. First ever UFC live event, man. And I'm glad that I got to experience this fight. I got Mason Jones versus Jeremy Stephens, and I'm going to put this one in the B tier. Back and forth war. The third round was a bit of a stinker, but I understand where Mason Jones is coming from, okay? He's up 2 rounds against someone who has crazy power behind his hands. The hardest hit 145er in history, baby. So I get where Jones is coming from, man. And definitely my favorite Jones on the roster. Jesus Christ, man. Okay, thank God the other ones retire, but in general, Jeremy Stephens almost had him out of there, man. Despite him being like 40 years old, I don't think he's fought in the UFC since. Jeremy Stephens was willing to die in front of that hometown crowd, man, even though he was a big underdog. And Mason Jones, with a great comeback to the UFC, he was doing a good job of getting in the pocket and getting scrappy with a guy like Stephens, but also playing it safe and also just getting the better of him in these exchanges and stealing away these rounds so that he comfortably won a decision. I like this fight. Had almost everything you wanted here, man. Just wish that third round was a bit better, but as a whole, it was a good fight, man. Very memorable, and I'm glad I got to see it live. Shout out to Mason Jones and Jeremy Stephens. All right, I'm putting this one in the B tier. Moving on up next to a pretty recent one. Peyton Talbott, this zesty little motherfucker's now entered the top 10 with this one. Took on Henry Cejudo. This fight was great, man. And another one, I've been saying these fights up in S and A and B. They had everything you want, man. We got to see Talbot taking down Cejudo, fucking emoting on him. We got to see Cejudo dying on his shield, man. Living by the sword and dying by the fucking sword, man. He was bringing it to Talbot. Despite facing such a big height and reach advantage, Cejudo was getting scrappy and was going out with a dogfight. And ultimately was just a little bit behind, a Cejudo-sized bit behind in general. But Talbot was just looking better on the feet, piecing him up. He's so hard-hitting, man. He's so dynamic. He's so fucking wild and reckless, but he's so patient and composed at the same time. Talbot's just an excellent striker, and unfortunately for Cejudo, man, Cejudo was his punching bag. Cejudo had a lot of moments. He put on a great, entertaining fight. Like, Cejudo was even able to take down Talbot a couple of times, you know what I mean? Interesting scrambles. Interesting to see both guys get up and take down the other, and really exciting back and forth on the feet to where this fight had everything, man. Picasso will be looking at this, and even he couldn't paint up something as beautiful as Talbot and Cejudo, okay? So really got the blood flowing on this card and really carried the momentum. I think it deserves to be in the A tier, okay? Moving on up next to Chris Curtis versus Roman Kopylov. I'll put it in the B tier here, man. Constant action, consistent action throughout. The only thing that kind of was an asterisk next to it is the early stoppage. Like, Chris Curtis, there was 2 seconds left of the fight. Like, the referee, I forgot who it was, Mark Smith or something, Curtis was mad too afterwards, bro, screaming. I don't believe he's ever been stopped. So it was a bit that early stoppage. You could just gave him the 2 seconds to let him finish the fight. It was 1-1 going into the third. And even though I thought Kopylov was going to win a decision anyways, that was the only kind of stain of the fight. Other than that, it was a great back and forth. A lot of action on the feet. Both guys had moments and took a round off each other. Kopylov's kickboxing, man, is so dangerous. I feel like he's put on a couple of stinkers this year. Not even stinkers, just disappointing performances when he's losing against Acosta and against, who was the other one? Gregory Rodrigues. But this one, man, he was able to get a win. It was over a solid name lingering outside the rankings. And he was able to just piece him up on the feet. And it's really hard to finish Curtis. So the fact that he even knocked him down and technically got that TKO is still somewhat impressive in his own right, despite it being a bit early. You know what I'm saying? So I'm down to put this one in the B tier here, man. Nice back and forth from both guys. Moving on to the next one here, man. Let's fill up the D tier a little bit. Dariush Moicano. This kind of put a halt to the momentum of the card, man. A lot of bangers on this card. A lot of finishes. But this was one where Moicano almost rocked him in the first. And I've been saying this, y'all. I said this for the BSD fight. You can't trust Dariush's fucking chin. It's made of glass at this point. If Moicano was knocking you down, no disrespect to Moicano, his striking is fine. It's solid. But he just is not a powerful guy. He doesn't have that one-shot KO power within him, okay? And Dariush, man, was able to come back in the second and third. That was great to see. But this fight I'm putting in the D tier because it just didn't have a lot to it, man. It slowed down the momentum of the card. Moicano knocked him down in the first, and that was cool to see. And respect to Dariush for just out-grappling Moicano. Like, that is no joke. That's actually really fucking impressive because Moicano was the guy that 10-8'd BSD, and then BSD knocked out Dariush. So MMA math makes no sense here, but in general, to out-grapple Moicano like that is impressive. And to have a comeback like that is impressive, but overall it was just a bit of a stinker in my opinion. Just nothing too memorable, and it really was a bit slow in that second and third round in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? So, fine fight, but just a bit boring at times and just a bit disappointing. And not as bad as some of these other Ds, so it's like a D plus if that helps, but still a bit of a letdown, man. Moving on to the letdown of all fucking letdowns, man. Let's do Shevchenko versus Zhang Weili. I'm going to put this in the F tier. We thought it was going to be like the greatest women's fight of all time. And maybe in terms of the skill set and how high level the stakes were, it was. But this just wasn't it, man. This just wasn't it. Zhang was just too small for her. She just got out-grappled. Could not get up at all once she was sent to the mats. And Shevchenko, as usual, man, did the same thing with Fiorot. She stunk it up and ruined another co-main event. So I'm going to put this one in the F tier. Another F tier here, man. I'm going to put Torres Finney versus Robert Valentin. Jesus Christ, man. 4 significant strikes landed by Finney the entire fight. Just sat on him for 15 minutes. Just controlled him without actually doing anything. And it was just like, this is what Nick Diaz was warning us about. This is Nick Diaz talking about the doomsday of the sport, man. This is a guy in Finney who had a lot of buzz after like the whole Contender Series stories. He's a fucking inspiration. Now he's finally got a contract despite the odds. For this to be his debut against pretty lackluster competition and then doing that performance just stunk it up, bro. I'm going to put this one in the F tier here, all right? Torres Finney has a hit list on him now, man. Jesus. Moving on to another one we got here, man. Sadikov versus Mota. Jesus, what a barn burner. Similar to like a Royval versus Van. It's crazy how many significant fucking strikes were landed and thrown just by the time we got to like a round and a half. Mota almost knocking off Sadikov, or knocking out Sadikov. Jesus, he was up against the fence, unloading on him with like a Street Fighter level combination. And Sadikov was able to survive. Sadikov came back in the second round, started delivering nice knees and elbows in his own right, and then knocked out Mota in a crazy comeback. And really, this card as a whole sucked ass. It was a pretty disappointing maiden co-main. There wasn't really any finishes or buzz going on for the rest of the prelims or main card. This fight stole the show. I'm pretty sure it was all of the bonus money Uncle Dana gave it to them because like there was nothing else on the card to give it to. This brought the heat. This brought the excitement, man. This shit was Monday Night fucking Raw. And in general, I'm going to put it in the H tier. I think it really deserves to be up there. High-paced scrap for the whole round and a half we got, and both guys almost knocked each other the fuck out, okay? Moving on to another one in the S tier here, man. I'm going to do Lopez versus Silva. The fact that Silva just got shut down, he got big broed, he didn't have anything for the grappling of Lopez early on. But yet, in the second round, he was coming out throwing lethal attacks, very versatile strikes, lots of spinning attacks and elbows. And honestly, almost hurt Lopez. It almost got him, not almost rocked him and got him out of there, but stunned him a bit and was making it much more competitive. But Lopez was so composed, dog. Lopez was like, I've been here before. I've seen it all, motherfucker. You ain't it. You ain't the guy that's knocking me out, man. and he was able to throw a spinning elbow of his own right and knock out Silva. This was a crazy pace. This was two guys who damn near got these 100% finishing ratios, man, and just bring the heat every time. So we knew it was going to be a barn burner. It was going to be very hard for this one to disappoint. But truly, man, this stole the fucking show, man. Silva getting flatlined was crazy. Lopez facing so much adversity, but being so dominant throughout was crazy. And both guys just had just enough moments and brought so much excitement to where I think it deserves to be in the S tier here, man, okay? Moving on up next, joining the C tier, bro, I'm going to do Umar Nurmagomedov versus Mario Bautista. This one wasn't too bad. This was solid, man. I get it was a lot of control from Umar, but Umar was getting after it. Umar was trying to finish the fight. Umar was trying to submit him. And Mario Bautista almost knocked him out and was rocking him in either the first or second round, man. Bautista really didn't have too many moments. Bautista could barely keep the fight standing. And him almost, you know, kind of rocking Umar and knocking him down was kind of the highlight of the fight. But respect to Bautista for making it a dogfight, making it scrappy. He's got a quick turnaround coming up soon. Same with Umar, so they're both being active. And this fight itself, man, it wasn't anything too crazy, but it was a very impressive performance from Umar, man. To just be so efficient in these scrambles and just control Bautista for a majority of the fight, almost submitting him, and for his chin to be able to survive Bautista finishing him. It was crazy to see, man. I get you could look at things the opposite way and say, like, oh, Umar was just controlling him to a boring fucking hug fest the entire time. It sucked. Or, oh, Bautista has no power. How did Bautista fucking rock Umar? I get both of those arguments, but as a whole, compared to Volkov versus Almeida, this was a fucking blessing. This fight just had a bit more, man. This fight, when it did play out on the feet, was much more exciting than a Volkov and Almeida. And even the grappling exchanges as a whole, it was just more impressive for Umar to do this, man. At least he was throwing shit. At least he was attempting submissions. So as a whole, I'm going to put in the C tier because it wasn't anything too crazy. Don't go showing your friends about it and be like, this will get you on the UFC. But as a whole, like, it still was fine. It was a solid performance. It was impressive from Umar, and Bautista had a couple moments. But it also was a bit slow at times as well, and some of these rounds kind of dragged to the point to where I think C is fair. It wasn't too entertaining of a fight, but it also was far from boring to the point to where C is like that neutral ground. You know what I'm saying? Slap on the wrist, but I'm shaking the hand at the same time. You know what I mean? Moving on up next, man, another one I'm going to put in the D tier here. I'm going to put Holland versus Mallet, bro. I think this was a fight just so static. All that glitchy shit that shows up on the television screen, the black and white. And you just can't change the fucking channel no matter how hard you try, bro. Jesus. Holland and Mallet just kind of sunk it up. There was the nut shot in there as well. That definitely didn't help, but there's just, this fight didn't have anything memorable to it. At least we thought we can get some kind of dogfight because Mallet finishes a lot of his fights and Holland can kind of bring the heat when he wants. I mean, look at the D-Rod fight. That's in the A tier. One of the best fights of this year, but Holland versus Mallet was just a bit of a disappointment. A lot of primarily just playing it out on the feet, but there just wasn't anything to it, man. And the nut shots just made it worse. Once that happened, Holland just had nothing in the fight. And in general, this is a forgettable one. This is a stinker, and it's just kind of overshadowed by the nut shot and Holland just kind of stepping off the gas once that happened. And both guys just not really throwing too much, and both guys not really getting close to a finish. Both guys just kind of coasting it out here, man, unfortunately. So it was a bit of a letdown. I'm going to put it in the D tier here. Moving on up next, the F tier. Another F tier we got here, man. Alonzo Menefield versus Omar Sy. This whole Atlanta card as a whole was literal terrorism to the sport. And this one opened it all up. It opened up the main card, man. This sucked, dude. When Sy was trying to take him down, he's just pushing him up against the fence, and it takes him a minute to get a takedown in. And then he's just stalling out these rounds. And Menefield, I guess, won on damage because he was just barely doing enough on the feet. But it's like these guys were barely throwing anything on the feet. And the grappling as a whole was just so dull to watch because Sy would just pick him up, put him down, and not do anything with it, man. Sy's grappling, I know he's more capable of getting submissions. I know he has ground and pound in him as well. I know he's capable of being a better striker, a more polished striker. But this fight against Menefield, he didn't show anything of how good he could be. And Menefield, I get he's kind of like a fucking Kahoot. I get he's kind of like this Flintstones type build. But in general, like, he can still bring a dog and put on entertaining performances. But this just wasn't it, man. He's the guy that's either putting on a dog fight and knocking you out, or he's getting knocked the fuck out. And this was neither. Menefield just didn't really have any moments, but still won. And this was just a rough performance with both guys, man. It was a super fucking boring decision. I'm going to put this one in the F tier here, all right? Moving on up next to cap out the S tier here, man. Volk versus Lopez. Another one of these super high level fights that kind of has everything you want. But it's just, well, it didn't really have too much grappling in it. But to be honest, man, this was still just such a stellar fucking fight that deserves to be in the S tier. Just 5 rounds of standing and banging. My heart, bro, was pumping out of my chest, bro. Like fucking Luffy turning into Joy. But literally, bro, was popping out of my chest. I'm hearing the drums of liberation. When Volkanovski is almost getting knocked down twice, bro. Or knocked out twice. Lopez knocked him down the 2 times. almost finished the fight because he has such good finishing instincts, but Volk was able to survive, man. Volk was shutting down and neutralizing Lopez, wouldn't allow him to really get going as much as he does, and applied the same pressure, man. Volk's a dog, and Volk is so high level, and so is Lopez, though. Like, this fight, man, was an absolute scrap. Close in the numbers, close-ish, but Volkanovski still was like the clear winner, 49-46, but it was still competitive. You know what I'm saying? There could still be 49-46s that are competitive somehow. You know what I'm saying? Look at like Petr Yan versus the Sandhagen fight. Close fight, but 49-46. Same thing here, man. Banger of a fight. Super high level striking on display. And Volk is just the fucking man. And he proved that once again. Such high level striking and so dangerous to watch as a Volk fan. But yeah, such an enjoyable fight, man, okay? Another 5-round championship banger here that I would love to have up in SRA. But this time it's getting the S tier nod. You know what I'm saying? Moving on to the A tier here. I'm going to put Prochazka versus Hill in the A tier. Jesus, Hill taking the second round. Prochazka taking the first round. Prochazka knocking him out in the third round. It was such a back and forth, man. Both guys, like, I feel like it was more a Yuri performance. Let's go for that than anything here. But Jamal did have a couple of moments. Jamal was willing to fucking die in there as well, man. Jamal, man, even though he got rocked in the first, was able to survive. And even though he was getting rocked in the third, yeah, he almost got knocked out and eventually did, but it was kind of that slow death. Like, Hill was still fighting and scrapping, man. So, respect to both guys for this one. I really like this fight. And another one in January that's holding up all the way now. Nice back and forth, man. I'm going to put it in the A tier here. Moving on to the last two I got for y'all, man. And listen, this was the year of Merab, man. Even though he lost to fucking Yan, you could argue this is still the year of Merab, right? And because of that, I'm going to end with these two Merab fights here. First is Merab versus Yan, the trilogy. I'm going to put this in the A tier here. When I was watching this live at the bars with my buddies, I didn't enjoy it as much as when I rewatched it the next day. I saw this guy fight of the night, and honestly, I enjoyed Talbott versus Cejudo more. But I stand by that even after putting this fight in the A tier. When I watch this one the next day, I'm all sobered up, man. I'm just taking in the technicality and just the high-level skill set on display. And Yan having moments. Merab still making it competitive. Yan dunking him on his head. And Yan landing so clean with these kicks and shots to the body. Busting on Merab. And just the high-level display of action, man. This was such a high-level fight. I really enjoyed it when I rewatched it. I think it deserves to be in the A tier here. I still like Talbott and Cejudo more. I think that should have got the bonus, but this was so high fucking level. Merab is no joke. Merab is such a legitimate wrestler, man. And for him to get stuffed all of his takedowns, it's no joke for how good Yan is. You know what I mean? Yan dunking Merab on his head. Yan getting 5 and 9 takedowns. More than Merab, man. That was a bet that not a lot of people thought would hit. So in general, this fight really had everything. It played out great on the feet. Both guys had their moments, but Yan was just so much more damaging and so much more efficient with everything. But Merab was still making it competitive. You know what I'm saying? Who knows if the activity played a factor or not? Who the hell knows? But as a whole, for the fight itself, it was really enjoyable. Super high class, man. And truly, these bantamweights, man, who are right up there for their individual GOAT status, this is what you get with it. This is how high level and entertaining it could be, you know? And moving on to the last one here, man. I put that last one in A, but for this one here, Merab versus Sean O'Malley 2, the rematch, I'm going to put it in the B tier here, okay? I enjoyed it. It was a nice scrap. The first two rounds were a nice back and forth where Merab was really improving in his striking. As we've really, like, this was honestly just that capital performance that goes to show how much Merab's striking has gotten better, okay? Actually being in the pocket and actually being not afraid to mix it up on the feet with a guy like O'Malley, it was crazy, man. The third round was a bit of a stinker, but it ended in a finish. Merab got a fucking submission, so I can't really complain too much of that. So the first two rounds were a nice back and forth on the feet, and Merab got a fucking submission of all things. His only finish of 2025 and possibly the past eon of lifetime, so it is what it is, man. I enjoyed this one. I'll put it in the B tier. And that's going to be it, boys. That's going to be it for this long-ass yap session here. I actually had more fights I wanted to talk about, but I'm already kind of at over an hour for the video, okay? I need enough storage so I could save this shit and upload it. That's the real-life problem I have right now, okay? So, in general, boys, if you made it this far in the video, thank you so very much for giving me your time and attention. As usual, guys, it really, really means the world to me, so I really appreciate it. And let me know in the comments what your opinions are. What were your favorite fights or least favorite fights? I'd absolutely love to hear it in the comments below, okay? So, I appreciate y'all as usual, my boys. All the smoke here. Hope you guys have a good one, and thank you guys so much for watching.